Do a bronze smoky eye, but what is a smoky eye? A smoky eye can have many different colors, but think of it as transitioning and melting into the next color. So you could do purple, pink, any color you want. I feel like when we think smoky eye, we just think black, but all we need to do a smoky eye is have depth and make sure everything is transitioning softly into the next color. Now I'm gonna start with a little bit of concealer, but notice I'm not putting that concealer where we're gonna have friction. I'm gonna swatch this here so you can see that we're starting with a really warm brown. Anytime you're gonna do something that has to do with smoky, starting with warm shades is always a good idea. And the reason why is because most of us are already pretty used to seeing ourselves in warm tones. So starting with cool can be a little scary. And do you see how much I started with here? And also I'm using a fluffier brush to blend this because I don't want it to be wildly pigmented. I want to build. That's looking pretty nice. In fact, I'm going to take a little bit extra from here. Perfect. It's always better to build than it is to put too much on and then have to take away. Built it up just a little bit more. Now for this next transition, we're actually gonna grab our bronzer. Now, let me tell you why we're using the E29. The fluffier the brush, the more diffused that application. And a smoky eye is all about diffusion and melting. Too dense of a brush, and it's going to kind of make the transition a little too intense. It can make the lines a little too harsh, and you wouldn't have that really soft separation. So by using a fluffier brush, even though we don't have that same control, we have beautiful transition. So that's why it's important to really start with small amounts. Now we wanna reach for a bronzer that's a little neutral. Notice how it's not too red, not too orange. I absolutely love these bronzers, by the way. So we're gonna pick that up on the center of the brush and we're gonna start to transition. And this is gonna give us a really seamless blend. And this is the bronzer that we're going to use later. So it's gonna tie everything together seamlessly. Using the same bronzer that you're gonna use on your face, on your eyes, is just a fantastic way to get the most seamless, even look to your makeup. I'm gonna take some in here, just keep tapping. We need a little less here. I'm gonna pick up more product on the brush. And if you'll notice, whenever I go to pick up that product, I'll focus it more in the socket and then I take it over here. And that also helps me not add too much product where I don't want it. Now, if we were doing a black smoky eye, this is where we would grab the black, but I'd start to pack it on my lid. But we're doing more of a brownie bronze. Now, anytime you go into a shade, no matter, even where I'm at with my makeup journey, if I'm going this shade or darker, I'm switching to a much smaller brush. So I'm gonna start to pack this into the socket. I'm gonna relax, and that's about how much I want it to creep out, but let me make sure it's nice and even across here. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab, remember that fluffier E29? I'm gonna tap into bronzer, which I did off camera, you can't see, but I only have my two hands here. And then I'm gonna take that and transition that just over this top part of that dark brown, and we'll get really nice, even soft transition. Now I got one more tip I'm gonna show you to really get this nice seamless blend going, but we're not there yet. This is going to go on our lid, and I want it to be extra, extra shimmery. So I'm gonna apply a clear tacky base. Now if we use the side of the E29, even though it's fluffy, it's a little bit longer than most brushes, so you're gonna be able to kind of press it and pull that across the lid. Oh, this color is so perfect. And by pressing and pulling, we're getting a more intense application. Goodness gracious, this color is so pretty. Now for over here, I'm gonna put a different shade, so I'm not gonna worry about applying the shadow there. But let's get that on, and then what I like to do is I'll take Sheila, my makeup friend and trusty towel. I'll wipe off that excess, and then I'll just kind of lightly tap the shimmer into the socket to soften it. Again, it's all about the seamless, soft transitions. Now it's time to start the cleanup. A smoky eye is about transitions, yes, but it's really about knowing how to clean it up. Micellar water, fluffy brush. We talked about that fluffy brush earlier. and how the fluffier the brush, the more diffuse that application. So this is going to not really take away harshly. You're not going to get intense lines, which I'm not against that. We love all applications, but this is going to give you more of a melted clean. And I'm going to go around here. We're still going to use some foundation to melt too, but this just helps get kind of that initial shape going without taking away too much of the shadow. And I also find that this technique doesn't take away my skincare because it's such a small amount. These fibers are just taking away the smallest amount. So if I have to go underneath here, you can barely even feel that micellar water. So it doesn't really mess with my skincare too much. This looks a lot scarier than what it is, but what I'm doing here is tight lining. And if you have very sensitive eyes, these 2 points of contact here can really help. And also it's just so much easier to lift up the lash line. And what we're doing is we're filling in gaps in the lash line, and that can really make a difference. It might not feel like it, but it's definitely worth trying once or twice. Now I'm definitely gonna add some falsies, but you can see how tight lining just really enhances the lash line and it makes it look thicker, which then makes your lashes look thicker. Let's add our lash. I went for a little bit more of a rounded lash today. This is the self-adhesive lashes from Lily Lashes. They go on so easily. I love these so much. But yeah, instead of a more cat eye, I just kind of wanted it to be a little bit longer in the center and shorter on the edges here. Just make sure it's nice and pressed on. Now we're moving on to complexion. There's going to be a couple steps here that are going to make sure that our smoky eye is super nice and melted. I'm really excited to show you, but first we have to get our base on. So this is my foundation on the back of my hand, and notice that I'm grabbing from a really small amount. See, that would be too much. I'm grabbing from a different area. I'm going to start to melt, and the reason I'm going to use foundation instead of concealer is because foundation generally isn't as pigmented as our concealer. So this is a really good way to start that initial blend. I have one more tip that I'm going to show you with a puff, but we're not there yet. Let's kind of melt this in, and then we're going to melt over here as well. That looks so much better already. Let's do a nice warm waterline, and then we got to get concealer on to finish up everything else. We're going to use that wet concealer to our advantage. It's really going to make this nice and smudgy under here. I'm going to go ahead and connect it over this way while my cat snores. We're going to grab a small brush, start to blend this out, tap that through here. I'm going to go ahead and set, really lock that in. And I'm also going to kind of blur the edges here with the puff. And the way that the puff just kind of sets everything evenly and all at once gives such a seamless effect out here. It's one of my favorite techniques to just get this look completely seamless. Maybelline Lifter Liner, the shade is called Peaking. And then I'm just going to top it with this MAC gloss. Kind of a red bronze situation. Oh yeah, that's what I envisioned. Let's finish up our eye. We're going to use this one as our inner corner. Delightful. Let's save this for later. There's a lot of really great smoky eye tips here, but let me know if you want to see a classic black smoky eye.